All right, my beautiful friends, today we're talking about Chapter 6, Management and Leadership in Today's Organization. So before we delve into the content, it's really just critical to understand why this chapter holds such weight in modern business education. Management and leadership are no longer this static concept confined to boardrooms or organizational charts. They are actually pretty dynamic. And so they're not just dynamic, they're independent, and they're constantly evolving due to the rapid technological advances, there we go, globalization and shifting workplace culture. Let me see this. Maybe we should make your life a little bit easier. Okay, there. All right, so we're looking at shifting workplace cultures and so forth. So we're not here to just explore this theory that we have. We're actually going to look more at how successful organizations they operate and they thrive. So let's just unpack what management truly is. At its core, management is about guiding. It's the compass of the organization. This means continuously developing, maintaining, and allocating resources. We're talking about human resources, we're talking about financial resources, we're talking about technological resources, in a way that just drives the organization toward its goals. Now, notice that there's a subtle shift in imagery in what was before and what is today. And so we're moving from the calm predictability of maybe what would have been organizational leadership into a very dynamic and changing world. So it kind of goes into this rafting mode where there's just so many things are thrown at you, and you have to be able to be adaptable, okay? You have to be able to survive the changes, the quick changes that are happening. So today's organization operates in a world that is volatile, uncertain, and complex, and quite ambiguous. So in this context, managers are not just planners, but navigators adapting constantly. They're also constantly making fast decisions with limited information and guiding the teams through uncertain terrains. And there's a lot of moving part as we're saying. One of the biggest skills that you could have is agility. Agility is this ability to pivot strategically while staying aligned with overarching goals. What you're looking at is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling situations, which are pillars of modern day management. Managers, they also have to be applied, or managers have to also apply these concepts in a fluid manner. So we no longer have to create 5-year plans and stick to it blindly. We should create a 5-year plan, but we don't have to stick to it blindly, because what we're looking at is the changing dynamic and the changing world environment with its ups and its downs. So more so than anything else, leaders must become data literate, emotionally and intelligently comfortable and wise with what they are doing. So the entire thing is that you have to be able to not just understand people as a leader, but you also have to be able to understand data. And how do you change things based on numbers? What are the trends that are happening? What are the things that could be better? Now, to deepen our understanding of the role of management, we must examine 2 critical performance dimensions. The first one is efficiency. The second one is effectiveness. Efficiency is about resource utilization, so doing things right. Effectiveness, on the other hand, is about goal attainment. So doing the right thing. So the first one, efficiency, is doing things right. Effectiveness is doing the right things, okay? So you need both to be a successful manager. So you need to be efficient and you need to be effective in order for you to be able to do that. Consider the data, oh my goodness, the Delta Airline example. Operating at 12.5 cents per seat illustrated a company that mastered efficiency. Okay, this is what they got really good at. This means they found two ways to optimize every cent spent on fuel, staff, scheduling, and infrastructure. Essentially, I want to say what they did, if I remember this correctly, is that they reduced the paper, like how much the paper weighs. You know, the papers that are in the back of the seats? They reduced how much the paper weighs, and that reduced how much fuel is spent by a ton. So that was something that they did. Yeah. I think this is probably the reason why a lot of airlines, if they want to charge cheaper tickets, they charge you for the bags. Because the more the plane weighs, the more fuel it consumes. Airline tickets are charging by your weight? By your weight? I want to say that's ethically questionable, and they will get. I'm fairly certain that yeah. I think not to do that by charging for baggage instead. Well, it's like a fixed amount. Yeah, so I don't know if they're trying not to do that particularly, but definitely the bags thing. I want to say it's ethically very questionable for them to do that, and they can get into a lot of legal trouble with human resources and with organizations that run human resources as well. Like the ones that are accountable for like Americans with Disabilities and other organizations like that as well. So questionable. The best managers build a team and system that strike a balance. So they implement lean operations without compromising on innovation, which is really good, and that's what you want to seek to do. And they look for clarity on key performance indicators that reflect both financial efficiency and human-centered outcomes. And that's the hope that they have. Any questions so far? How are we doing? Doing okay? Yeah, everyone's good? Okay. So there are different types of planning, and planning is the brain of the management process, and it's where vision becomes executable actions. So we take them from visions and we put them into actions. You can see that planning is not, based on this table, that planning is not a one-size-fits-all task. There are four types of planning that we're looking at here. We're looking at strategic, tactical, operational, and contingency. And each has its distinct timeframes, shareholders, and goals. When you're looking at strategic planning, it's typically done at the top level. So you're looking at maybe CEOs and division heads, and it sets long-term direction. This is where mission and vision are crafted. So tactical planning, on the other hand, it translates these goals into actionable steps. So you take what was planned strategically and you put them into practice. And it's often led by middle managers, so not the CEOs, people under them, and it focuses on implementation within a business unit. Operational planning handles the day-to-day executions of those tactics. So again, they all built on each other. And so contingency planning is arguably the most underrated of all of these ones. And this one is the what-if system. So in case of an emergency, a vital necessity in today's unpredictable world is this what-if system. We saw that during COVID. A lot of the companies that could not survive, that did not adapt, that didn't have a contingency plan, fell through the cracks. So you want to understand the distinction among these types because that's very important. So great managers ensure that all planning levels are aligned and that communication flows across through all of them. So planning also reflects the leadership's ability to anticipate the future and not just react to it. You don't just want to anticipate you don't want to just react to something as it happens. You want to be prepared for it, okay? And by doing so, they can empower others to do that as well. Questions so far? So once the plan is made, oops, sorry guys. There we go. Once the plan is made, execution depends on organizing. Organizing is more than just assembling people. It is about architecting the right structure to carry out the strategy. So you want to think of it like building a skeleton to support a movement, okay? You have to build the framework so that you are able to move freely and so that you're able to move very smoothly through your operations. Okay, so the more intentional the structure is, the more effectively the organization can actually perform. And that's your job as a leader. Organizing involves coordinating and allocating resources, involves allocating people, technologies, and capital according to the firm's goals. Now, this includes creating departments, defining goals, and clarifying lines of authority. And what you also want to do is you want to establish a system of accountability so that people are held accountable for what they are doing or what is expected of them as well. An unstructured organization is like a band with no conductor. Essentially, you have the talent, people know how to play music, but they will not produce it in harmony. So your job is to bring that symphony to life as the leader, okay? In this case, hierarchy matters. At top levels, executives provide visions and steer the big pictures. Middle managers serve as a bridge, translating that vision into departmental goals and making decisions about how to allocate resources within that unit. And at the supervisory level, managers are closest to the frontline employees, and their job is to ensure the day-to-day operations align with the tactical and strategic goal. This also raises the question of centralization and decentralization. How much authority is pushed down the hierarchy? In today's organization, there's a growing trend towards decentralizing the decision-making process, especially in creative industries such as tech startup, which means that you want to empower employees to make decisions because that fosters innovation, it fosters speed, and it fosters ownership as well. How are we doing so far? Questions, thoughts, things that you're looking at? Everyone's good? Okay. So this is a beautiful visualization of how planning is tied across organizations. At the top, you have the mission and the vision statements, and this is the philosophical and strategic core that is driving your company. From there, upper managers build the strategic plan, and they're shifting long-term decisions. And then this cascades down to middle management, where the focus is tactical plans, turning high-level strategies into short-term actions, and then finally line managers, which are the closest, again, to the front lines that we were talking about earlier. So leadership is not reserved for people with titles. When we think of leaders, we tend to think of the boss, right? We tend to think of my manager, my department chair, the dean, whatever, right? But leadership is not just meant for people with titles. This is probably the most important shift in modern management thinking. Anyone in the organization, regardless of their position, can step into the role of leader by influencing others towards shared goals. Leadership today is less about control and more about inspiration, direction, and emotional energy one brings to a team or mission. Now, we then shift into understanding the nature of power, which is a critical element in leadership. Not all power is created equal, and how you use it determines whether it's built or it builds up or it breaks down the company culture. You have something called legitimate power, which comes from a title. You have something called reward power, which comes from control over incentives. These are situations that, sorry. Okay, there. So these two, whether it's legitimate or reward is having control over something, someone because of the reward that you, because of the incentives that are given through the company. Coercive power, it's effective in short-term crisis situation, but can damage long-term. Expert power and also referent power. And referent power is derived from individuals' personal charisma and respect and admiration. So essentially what you're looking at is not necessarily someone in leadership, but you know those people who are very charismatic and people just gravitate towards them? Which, by the way, you can learn to become that person too. That's reverent power, okay? Who? Cult? They do, but they can also have coercive powers. They could have reward powers as well. It's a misuse of power in general. Yeah. But that's a great example too. I would say influencers, social media influencers have referent power. So empowerment also, changes the game. So when employees are trusted to make decisions and control resources, we unleash initiative. The more you give people the chance to shine and really trust them, the more they can lead. You look at it, by the way, if you look at it in a dynamic of a relationship, when you have, generally this is a very big trait in men. If the woman, the more trust she shows in his ability to lead, the more he's actually capable of producing. Women have the tendency to control or to want to control more of the situation. And so you can see this also, this type of empowerment when women allow men to empower men to lead by giving them more responsibility and more trust or showing more trust in relationships. You can see it flourish if that person, provided that person is a good person, right? Don't be dating someone who's not a good person, guys. Okay? So you can see that in your day-to-day dynamics as well. Who's a bad person?
Oh, a bad person. Yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, someone who's doesn't match your moral stands. And if your moral stands are not great, then probably a good time to fix them before you start dating someone. Just a general rule of thumb. All right, corporate culture, but we can talk about that one later. Corporate culture undergirds all of this. So attitude, values, and standards of behaviors within a company set the tone for how leadership is expressed and received. So you have a toxic culture, and it can undermine even the most charismatic leaders. A healthy, adaptive culture amplifies leadership at every level. All right, so there's a tool that was developed by GE under Jack Welch's leadership, and this is GE as in General Electric. So this is called the 4 E's and P, a framework used to assess managerial effectiveness. The 4 E's stand for energy, energize, edge, and execution, while the P stands for passion. This model provides a way to differentiate managers not only by result, but by behavior, attitude that drives result as well. The first E, energy, refers to a leader's personal drive and stamina. It's not about being busy. It's about being engaged and enthusiastic. So leaders who have energy show up constantly and model high performance mindset. So it's not just about showing up physically, but also having a high performance mindset, which is a complete reset of how we tend to think? Or what are the things that trigger us on a daily basis that stop us or hinder us from actually getting to where we need to go? Energizing others, so is the second E, and it's probably the most crucial of all of them. It's not about being, it's not about doing everything yourself. It's about mobilizing others to act. And so energizing leaders communicates vision clearly, builds enthusiasm, and aligns people behind a shared objective. Then we have edge, and edge is the courage to make tough calls. Okay, you have to be on the edge, right? So you have to be willing to take a risk, or at least a calculated risk. So in business, ambiguity is constant, and leaders have to be leaders with edge are decisive. They can say yes or no when others just waver and they aren't sure what they do. So this is part of being a leader. The fourth E is execution, and it's about converting plans into results. So strategies without execution is hallucination. You want to be able to actually do it, okay? You want to follow through what you said you would do. And then finally, passion, and passion is the fuel behind it all. So leaders without passion may achieve compliance, but they rarely achieve excellence. So now we're going to explore, okay, there we go. Now we're going to explore the spectrum of leadership styles. So we have autocratic, a participative, free reign that we're looking at in this one. And autocratic makes decisions unilaterally. And this style is efficient in crisis and highly regimented environments. So you're looking at things like in the military, just the top dog makes the decision and we roll with it. It's also good in manufacturing. However, it often suppresses employees' input and can lead to disengagement and resentment if overused. Participative leadership, also known as democratic or consultative, and it builds buy-in. So these leaders involve team members in decision-making as they foster open communication and often enjoy higher employee satisfaction and innovation. Now, free reign or laissez-faire leadership takes hands-off approach. They provide the task and the outcome expectation, then step aside. This works really, really well when you are managing highly skilled individuals, self-motivated teams like research and development, creative agencies, academic groups, and so forth, okay? Essentially, you're in this classroom. The dean or the chancellor of this university is not here with us. I am here. I'm teaching you the objective. They told me what objectives I need to do. This is what needs to be the learning outcome. And this is kind of what you would call a free reign or a laissez-faire leadership style. Does that make sense? Right. Controlling, often misunderstood as micromanagement, is in fact an essential and strategic managerial function. It's about assessing whether the organization is progressing towards the goal, and if not, understanding why. It closes the loop between planning and execution. The control process begins with setting performance standards. These are your metrics for success. So without clear understanding, you can't measure progress. So you have to be able to understand if you're progressing or if you're not progressing. Otherwise, you cannot measure it. So the second step that you have is measurement, or measuring the actual performance. And what you're looking for is data. You're looking for feedback. You're looking for analytics and key performance indicators. And this gives you an objective picture of what is actually happening. The next thing that you have is you want to compare actual result of standards. And so this is where insight emerges. Are you on the target? Are you overperforming? Or is there a gap between the two? What is the data happening? What is the data saying versus the standards and the benchmark that is there? Okay? Does that make sense? Yes? How are we feeling? Cool? All right. That's what it means to be controlling. You're looking at all of these aspects. So you can have whatever style of leadership that you're having or you're using based on what your organization needs, but you are still controlling this cycle and this system. Okay. Okay, if not, you want to take corrective actions based on the outcomes that are there. And this could mean revising the process, reallocating resources, retraining employees, whatever the case is. And then the last step is to use these insights to form future standards. So you're creating future standards based on the feedback loop of continuous improvement. Sounds good? Cool? Questions? Okay. So the last thing we're going to look at today is kind of just tying everything together. So because leadership and management don't operate in isolation, they rely on a blend of skills that vary by levels. You're looking at technical, human, and conceptual. Supervisory management, they're the closest to the front line, may be technically skilled. They need to know the tools, they need to know the process, they need to know the day-to-day mechanics that are happening, okay? Then you have middle management, which is the bridge. They need to balance all the skills as well, and they must communicate up and down. So they're talking to the CEOs, and they're also talking the C-suite level, and then or top management, and then they're also talking to the supervisory management, which is running the front line. And then top management as well operates at the strategic level. They need conceptual skills dominantly. They don't necessarily need the technical skills. They don't necessarily need the superhuman skills. They can use them, obviously, but nevertheless, it needs to be more on the conceptual skills to be able to think strategically and to be able to move and to be able to change the things that are around them. Okay? So the story of Louis, Gerstner Jr., he's a former CEO of IBM. And when IBM was struggling in the early 90s, he didn't just cut the cost. He reimagined the company. His turnaround wasn't about operational tweaks. It's about transforming the culture. So he changed the culture of the company. He changed the values and he changed the vision. And that's the power of conceptual leadership guided by human understanding. All right. All right, my friends, that is it for today. We're not going to go through this one. This is what IBM kind of went through. You have them where they were. And then when he took leadership and when he transformed, you can see it right here, it spikes. When he transformed their vision and mission, it spiked up. The value just went up. All right. So that's it for this lecture.